What is up, everybody, and welcome to this How I Won a Million. I'm your host, HeadChopper, for this episode because, well, I put in a good lineup on Sunday and I won $1 million on FanDuel, and I'm going to walk you through it right now. So what you need to know here, the specifics, $250 buy-in, $1 million first place prize on this one. And we're talking about 50 entries for me and hand-built lineups because at that price point, I didn't want to trust anything except for my own hand building process. So here we go. Let's kick it off. Quarterback, Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts just, burst onto the scene last week, and I was going to ride him again in a good matchup. I thought he could rack up some points. And I think the big thing here, the legs get you there with his running ability. And if you'll notice down there, receiver and tight end, I didn't have to pair him. It's the one correlation that I say you almost always got to jam in is when you play a quarterback, you need to have one of his wide receivers or pass catchers in there, except for the guys who primarily run, and that's really all they do. And Jalen Hurts is one of those guys. I don't think you have to correlate him, especially a guy like Hurts who hasn't shown that he has a definitive number one target or any kind of target tree going on. He just kind of throws it to anybody, and the running is the big thing. So I don't got to pair him with anybody, but at this price point, I was going to be all over Jalen Hurts regardless. So he's on there, made that lineup. Naked Jalen Hurts, man, went with him solo. Running backs were dictated by news this week. I got 3 of them in this lineup. I used 1 in flex. Leonard Fournette, Tony Pollard, all news oriented. Tony Pollard came about because Ezekiel Elliott was ruled out on Sunday morning, so I got me some Tony Pollard in there. Had to get him in there at that price point, being the bell cow of the offense. I didn't like the matchup, and I don't like the offensive line, and I didn't like Ezekiel Elliott in this matchup, but Ezekiel Elliott was more expensive, and Elliott was going to lose touches to Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard theoretically wasn't going to lose touches to anybody because he's the number 2 guy and they were going to ride him. And at that price point, I just had to get him in my player pool. I wasn't super stoked on him, but I had to get him in the player pool at that price point. Now, he ended up breaking a long 40-yard touchdown to end the game. It was kind of a weird play. He got there, it was fluky, but that's what you need. You got to be a little bit fluky to win prizes like this. All right, that's cool. Leonard Fournette was the other one that was data-driven or news-driven. I apologize. News-driven because I didn't have any interest in him, didn't have any interest in Ronald Jones. But again, when you ruled out Ronald Jones, now you have to look at the next guy because Ronald Jones is going to lose some work to Leonard Fournette. But Leonard Fournette, when he's the number 1 guy and Ronald Jones is out, isn't going to lose the work. So it's a different scenario here. So a cheap price tag, a bell cow. I knew he could catch passes out of the backfield, all good. And then he was going to get goal line work, all of it. And bingo, that's what got him over the top was the goal line work. So that was a news-driven pick right there. Last-minute addition to the player pool, as was Tony Pollard, strictly because of the news. That's what you got to pay attention to this time of year. My third running back on this roster, David Montgomery. Montgomery's been hot lately. Watching the games, he's just a good running back. I've always known he was a talented running back. Watched him at Iowa State. I never liked his offensive line. I thought that it was terrible, and it just didn't do him a good service at all. They're playing better, and he's looked electric. For lack of a better word, he's been electric lately. So he's looked good. I like him. Now all of a sudden we get a hot running back, and I look at the ownership, and I was going to play him regardless, but it's just a bonus when I look at the ownership and see that it's going to be sub 10%. In this case, I think it was sub 6%. This guy right here on fire like this, get him at that ownership, bingo. I'll take that all day. All right, wide receivers. Start off with Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones, a guy I was not going to play when it looked like the backup quarterback was going to be starting for Detroit. Then lo and behold, Matthew Stafford is cleared to play, and all signs are he's looking pretty decent. Now all of a sudden Marvin Jones is not only back in my player pool, but he's moving way up the charts because it's a good matchup, and it's a matchup I think they're going to be trailing early and often. So I think he's going to be getting a lot of garbage time work here. And got to put him in there. So I got him in there at a decent price. And now all the factors there. He's in my player pool. He just happened to end up on this lineup. DeAndre Hopkins, probably the key to all of it. 25 points. He's the highest receiver / tight end I got out there. So he got it done. He was not only a good play with this matchup against Philly and the struggling secondary. So I knew he was going to be good for a nice floor with a fair shot at a good ceiling. But he made sense on the lineup because at some point I wanted some correlation there, some kind of run back with Jalen Hurts. And this was the guy to do it with. And he's a clear-cut alpha wide receiver. So he fell in a good spot here. When Jalen Hurts is in this lineup and I can't pair Jalen Hurts with a pass catcher, the next best thing I can do is pair him with an opposing pass catcher and try to get some game script working here. And it happened. It worked with Hopkins, but that's how he got in there. Robert Woods, he's probably the most interesting of the lineup because this is what I'll do sometimes. Well, every week I'll look at my lineups about 15 minutes before the late games start. I'll look and see, do I have anything that looks good? Do I have anything that looks promising? I saw this lineup, had no dead spots at the time. It looked promising. So I said, all right, now what do I want to be my best combination in this lineup in the late games? I liked everything about the lineup except for that last wide receiver spot was Cooper Kupp at first. I liked Cooper Kupp earlier in the week a lot more than I did later in the week. And I just looked at it and I said, you know what? I can afford Robert Woods here. I'm going to switch off Cooper Kupp and get into Robert Woods. He's got a little bit more touchdown equity. That's what we're chasing on FanDuel. So I do like Cooper Kupp, but Robert Woods, I think, makes me feel a little bit more comfortable in a lineup that's already looking good. So I don't need to go off the beaten path. I don't need to worry about ownership so much at that point. I've already got a good looking lineup. So I went Robert Woods, and the difference between Woods and Kupp is clearly the difference between taking first place and maybe finishing back in 20th if Cooper Kupp is in there instead. So sometimes you just got to be a little bit fortunate, but you've also got to put in the work, look at the lineup, look at your lineups later in the day, see what you can change, what you can do going into the later games. If it's not a good looking lineup and it doesn't look like it has much of a chance to cash, change out the chalky stuff for super low owned stuff, and maybe you catch lightning in a bottle and maybe you get a cash, maybe you get a min cash, maybe you get a top 20 cash, something like that. You always got to be looking and seeing where you can improve your odds on this stuff. So that's how Robert Woods ended up there, and that paid off. Travis Kelce, I mean, best tight end in the game, best tight end on the board. Everybody loves a little Kelce. Had the money to do it. Rolled him out there, got it done with all the value running backs. It opened it up for an expensive tight end and an expensive defense, which was the Los Angeles Rams. Now that was the most disappointing aspect of this lineup and one of the most disappointing performances on the day. I got lucky and it didn't come back to bite me. And I got lucky because there was very little defensive activity out there that really stood out. The Cowboys came through with a late special teams touchdown that pushed a lot of people over the top, but I was able to fend that off. But other than that, there wasn't a lot of big defensive performances, so I got lucky to get away with this Rams pick because they underperformed. But that's how it breaks down sometimes. There's a lot of ways to win a GPP. You could put together this incredible lineup of top scoring players, and that could win it for you. You could put together a nice solid lineup that doesn't have any weak spots on some weeks. And if there's not a lot of scoring, you can win it that way. There's a lot of different ways to skin a cat here, man. So this is just one of them. This is how this lineup broke down. I appreciate you tuning in. If you got any questions, I'm always in Discord. Just at me in Discord. I'll see the question. I'll get back to you. We just have a little fun. So as always, guys, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully I can come back again and do another one of these. But until then, I'm HeadChopper, and I'm out of here.
Hey, thanks for checking out our videos. If you want more expert advice on DraftKings, FanDuel, or any other daily fantasy sports, make sure you check out the current videos playlist.